Hey everybody, this is Doa from Ice Cave Radio here, and it's just me. It's just me on my own, unfortunately. Charmer and the rest of the Charmer family are a little bit under the weather right now. Best wishes to all of you. Hope everybody feels better fast. Back to card gaming and going to events again real soon. But for now, I thought I'd try to cheer him and maybe the rest of you up with something that is never divisive, never causes strife, is always just pure joy. And that's a tier list, of course, yeah. So I wanted to go through and give you my personal ranking for all the leaders coming in Twilight of the Republic, but in the important context of pre-release events. So this is not a tier list overall for the expansion or anything like that. This is not a constructed tier list. This is my opinion of the power of these leaders in Limited, in Premiere specifically, or pre-release specifically, rather. So that's what we're going to do today. We're just going to go through the leaders one by one. I'm going to talk about my thoughts on them a little bit, and I'm going to put them on the tier list, and I might move them around a little bit. I might change my decision as we go throughout, but this is going to be really fun for me too, because I've been thinking about this a lot. My pre-release is tomorrow as I record this on 10/31 on Halloween night, or Halloween morning, actually. It's not Halloween night yet. The whole day isn't night, but maybe it kind of is because it's Halloween. Anyway, I digress. I'm recording this the day before my pre-release, so this is also a way for me to sort of put my thoughts into perspective going into that as well. So let's just get started. I've got all the leaders here, so let's turn this on. There we go. So we'll start with one of the starter leaders. So you're going to get Ahsoka Tano and General Grievous in your pre-release kit. If you watched the Ice Cave Radio video I did on building a pre-release deck, we went over that, where you can always have access to those two leaders. And I think that's great because, you know, these are two, I would say, solid leaders, not the best, not the worst. They're just going to be decent picks. I think this is set in alphabetical order. I don't know. I just literally made a bunch of images with the leaders on both sides of the leaders on there, and then I threw them in a folder. So we'll see the order they come up in. So I'll just say in no particular order, but we are starting with Ahsoka Tano. So going over her ability on the leader side, well, first of all, aggression, heroism. Then on her leader side, she has coordinate, action, exhaust her, attack with a unit. It gets +1/+0 for this attack, and she flips on 5. So a leader that flips fairly early, which can be decent and limited. Also, anything that just gives a unit +1 attack is great. The sticking point here is coordinate, obviously. You need to have 3 units out on the field to have coordinate active. So if you don't have 3 units on the field, she just basically doesn't have a leader ability. You can still flip her, but her flip side still requires coordinate, which is this unit gets +2/+0. So it becomes a 5/6 instead of a 3/6 on flip. A 3/6 on 5 is still a decent unit. A 5/6 is obviously much better. I think she's very average. I think she's not a bad leader, but I don't think she's spectacular. Just because when you're playing in a pre-release format, it's difficult to tailor a deck that consistently gets coordinate out sometimes, unless you really, really get a ton of very low-cost stuff in there to get it going early. And my thoughts on coordinate might still not be fully developed because I simply haven't played the game with coordinate a lot. I think it's definitely an ability that you can use. I've got a Padme deck, actually, that I'm very excited about that relies on coordinate a lot. But in a limited sense, I'm a little bit worried that coordinate's going to be kind of tough to pull off sometimes. I feel the same way about exploit, actually, too. But we're going to put her in B for now. We're just going to put her right in the middle and start there. So going to the next one, Anakin Skywalker. So I guess we're going by, looks like we're going by aspect here. I don't know. Another aggression heroism unit, action, exhaust, deal 2 damage to your base, attack with a unit. If it's attacking a unit, it gets +2/+0 for this attack. So really, really interesting ability. And this ties in, we have to talk about the flip side right away too. Anakin flips on 6, 4, 7, has overwhelm, and this unit gets +1/+0 for every 5 damage on your base. So you figure you have a 30 health base, you have 10 health left on that base. That's going to be +4 attack for Anakin. So he could, flip at it, on an 8/7 if you manage to get yourself down to 10 or something like that. And then you've got overwhelm, right? And, maybe you can use shenanigans like weapons, like maybe cards to restand him or something like that to, get a couple attacks in. He seems to be very combo deck oriented. And right away, right there, combo deck is a term that should sort of turn you off a little bit in a pre-release setting where, it's going to be harder to get that online when you have a less consistent card pool. So there's a little bit of a strike against him there. At the same time, I think in limited, this is a leader that could absolutely produce big comebacks for games sometimes, right? If you're taking a lot of damage, suddenly he flips. He's hitting everything with overwhelm. He's getting a lot of damage through. He's got a lot of health at 7, so he's staying alive. So I'm a little bit, I'm kind of on the fence about Anakin. I don't think he's going to be a great limited leader, but I could see specific scenarios where he could be good. For now, though, I think, again, in a pre-release format, I'm going to put him at C. This is a leader that you might be a little bit worried to run unless you get a very specific card pool to run with it. I'm going to take a drink of coffee. Yum, coffee. I like to brew my own coffee, do my own like pour-overs and all that kind of stuff. Great way to start a morning. Talking about Star Wars Unlimited is also a great way to start a morning. Let's talk about Asajj Ventress. So Asajj's leader ability, you exhaust her, attack with a unit. If you played an event this phase, it gets +1/+0 for this attack. Her flip side is a 3/4 on attack. If you played an event this phase, she gets +1/+0, becomes a 4/4, and deals combat damage before the defender. That's a pretty crucial ability. If you remember the Han Solo unit from set 1, that's another unit that dealt its damage before the defender. And that gives you the ability to trade without taking damage back, pretty easily a lot of times. So, it's... The thing is, so you have to kill the unit to not take damage, right? If you do 4 damage into a unit that has 5 health, then the unit doesn't die. It will have a chance to do its damage back to you, and so you will take damage there. So you have to be taking out the unit to really take advantage of this. But being a 4/4 that flips on 4, that's definitely something that you could take advantage of with this. The tricky part is playing an event to turn it online. You might want to go with Asajj as just straight up an aggressive leader for an aggro deck. Say you have a pre-release kit with a lot of good, cheap, cunning, and villainy units, then it might not be bad to run Asajj actually, just to have a 3/4, potentially a 4/4 that flips. The tricky part is, again, playing units to activate it. There is that hoop you have to jump through to get her to do anything, really. And so, again, in a limited format, if you don't get the card pool, or if you don't get her, of course, you might not really get a lot of use out of that. But I do kind of like aggressive decks in general in pre-release formats. So I'm going to, and you're probably going to find some events in there, especially on the cunning side. You're going to find more events that you're going to want to include in a pre-release deck. So I'm actually going to put her a little bit higher than Anakin. I'm going to put her in B, but I kind of actually want to put her in A. The flips on 4 is really appealing to me, just to have another free unit essentially. And even though it's a 3/4, just can sometimes be the backbreaker for your opponent in a limited format where they've just lost the board to an extent that they just can't get it back again. So I might move Asajj up to A a little bit later. We'll see. But for now, she's in B. I'm going to actually put her right there. I'm going to put her ahead of Ahsoka. So, and we'll do this too, where like left is better, right is worse, for lack of a better term. So she's a leader of B tier right now. All right, moving on. We're going to go to Captain Rex. All right, cool. So these are kind of in random order, I guess. Captain Rex, action, pay 2, exhaust. If a friendly unit attacked this phase, create a clone trooper token. On his flip side, he flips on 5, which is pretty quick actually. It becomes a 2/6, decent health, low attack. When deployed, create a clone trooper token. So you do get essentially 4/8 of stats when he flips on 5, which is a lot of stats for a 5 flip. That's actually 1 health more total than Boba Fett from set 1 even. So you get the clone trooper token. Each other trooper token, trooper unit gets +1 or +0/+1. So all your other troopers get +1 health. That includes the clone trooper token that you just created. So you're creating a 2/6 and a 2/3 for free on his flip turn on 5. That alone seems very strong. Just by virtue of his flip turn, I think he's going to be pretty solid in limited. Not to mention there seems to be a good amount of heroism command units out there. On the lower end, you've got stuff like Shock T as well. You've got Clone Commander Cody, obviously. If you pull one of those, that's a big deal. And then there's just a lot of good trooper stuff too. So I'm kind of high on this leader right off the bat anyway. And just paying 2 if a unit attacked, create a clone trooper token. That's a good way to just sort of keep stuff on the board as well, in a limited format where you might not have a unit from your hand to play. Again, because you're going to be creating pretty inconsistent decks because you sort of have to work with what you've got. Just being able to make a unit is a big deal. So, and I'd be happy to pay for 2 if I don't really have anything in my hand to play otherwise. So I kind of like Captain Rex here in limited, honestly. I think it's really strong flipping on 5. I think his leader ability probably won't see a ton of use, but it's there if you need it, and it's good. So I'm actually going to put him in A for now. And he might even jump up to S a little bit. I'm being very conservative with my initial rankings here because I don't want to put someone in S and then regret it later, right? It's easier to move a leader up than down, I think. So, yeah, he's going to be our first, I think, A leader of this list. So, moving on. Let's go to Count Dooku. I think he's going to be another pretty strong one, but he is a control leader, right? He does flip on 7. Play a Separatist card from your hand. It gains Exploit 1. In case you are not familiar with Exploit, I'll just read it off the card. You may defeat 1 unit you control. If you do, that card costs 2 less. Exploit can go, 2, 3, 4, whatever. So if you defeat that many units, up to that many units, you discount the card by 2 per unit defeated. Excuse me. He's a 5/9 when he flips. That's a big unit. He's got Overwhelm. That's pretty big too. And on attack, the next Separatist unit you play this phase gains Exploit 3. He's not going to be a leader you can force, whereas I think Clone Commander Cody, I think you can just force. But since there's so many troopers, there are a lot of Separatist units, but Command Villainy, I think you need that. I think you also need units that you're going to be okay with exploiting, but if you do kind of know how to handle exploit well, you're going to end up with a big board advantage. I do like Count Dooku a lot, and if you get to turn 7, then he's a big body. Then again, a lot of times in limited, by turn 7, things can be a little bit over sometimes if you don't have a strong early game. So playing Count Dooku does mean that you're going to have a way to deal with all those leaders that flip earlier in this set, and there are a lot of them. So I do think that's a big risk playing Count Dooku. That said, I think his ability can be very strong. It lets you have a higher cost curve in your limited deck, because you can theoretically exploit things to get bigger stuff out sooner than your opponent. That helps shore things up. I'm not convinced he's going to be a great leader, but I am going to put him in... This is tough, actually. I think I'm actually... Ooh, people are going to be mad about this one. And remember, we're only talking about pre-release events here. We're only talking about pre-release events for ranking these guys right now. So I am actually going to put him... but the exploit is good. But you have to destroy... I'm going to put him in C. Okay, we're gonna put him in C for now. And the reason being that he flips on 7. I think there's just a lot of leaders that are going to flip earlier in this format that are going to make a big impact. And if you don't have your leader flipping at around the same time, I think that inherently just gives you a big disadvantage in limited. So I know I'm going to annoy people by putting Dooku that low, but I think again, because he flips on 7 and you're going to have a lot to deal with before turn, resource turn 7, I think that's a little bit scary. So yeah, we're gonna put him a little bit lower than I think people expected there for now. A little bit lower than I expected to put him, actually. Now we get to our other starter leader, General Grievous. His action is tap or exhaust. Give a droid unit Sentinel for this phase. Sure, that's great. Giving a droid a unit Sentinel is great. You need to have a lot of droids, obviously, to get that online, but he's a little bit more flexible than like Chewbacca, for instance, where Chewbacca needs to play a unit and then that unit gains Sentinel. You can just start the turn and just immediately give something that's already on the board Sentinel for the phase, which can honestly mean the difference between losing the game or losing a leader or losing, a unit you really didn't want to lose. So I think it's, again, just like Ahsoka, I think it's a very solid ability, a very easy to understand solid ability. Great way to jump into the villainy side if your pre-release kit kind of pushes you that direction. I could see myself playing Grievous in a pre-release. On attack, you may... So when on his flip side, he's a 4/8, flips on 6, strong unit there. On attack, you may give a droid +1/+0 and Sentinel for this phase. So same ability as his leader side, but you get the +1 attack too, which again makes it a more annoying to attack into for your opponent. So yeah, again, I think it's just a very solid ability, but I think just in general, this is easier to pilot. I think it's more impactful immediately. There's no hoops you need to jump through aside from having a droid out on the field. And this expansion, especially on the villainy side, is filled with droids, of course, because of all the separatist stuff. So I think I can pretty comfortably put him in A. I don't think he's quite as good out of the box as Rex, but I do think he's better than Ahsoka and Ventress maybe. So I actually am going to put Grievous a little bit higher. Yeah, I don't mind that. And moving on. Jango Fett. Okay, this is one a lot of people have been talking about. When a friendly unit deals damage to an enemy unit, you may exhaust this leader if you do exhaust that enemy unit. Okay, so you have the ability to ping things, exhaust them, or attack little guys into big guys and exhaust them. It's cunning villainy, so we've got all those tricks there as well. On the flip side, he flips on 5, 3, 7, a little bit low on power, pretty decently high on health. When a friendly unit deals damage to an enemy unit, you may exhaust that unit. So same ability, but you don't exhaust him, right? He's still able to be an attacker, right? I think this is an ability that you can really lock the board down with in limited. You might want to look for other units that can do damage to enemy units without attacking into them. But even still, I think my favorite thing about this is being able to use, like, for instance, a battle droid token, attack a battle droid token into a big unit and exhaust it, right? So essentially, you're trading a 1/1 to exhaust their big unit and not have to deal with it for the phase. So I think that's a pretty good ability. And I think, again, depending on what your pool is, and it always depends on what your pre-release pool is, this could be a pretty strong leader if piloted well. I think he's a little bit trickier to do that with because I think you need to make really good attacking decisions with Jango Fett. So I don't know if I'd recommend him as a new player leader to pilot, but I think he's good, and with the proper amount of finesse, he can be very good. But again, it depends on your pool, you know. But I think overall he's pretty solid. I think I'm comfortable putting him in B here, but high B. I'm going to put him a little bit above Asajj Ventress just because, again, I think she's good conditionally if you have a lot of good aggressive units. I think he's good just kind of in general, right? And 3/7 on 5 for a flip is pretty solid too. So I'm going to put him at the top of B for now. We'll leave him there. I know people are still upset about Dooku being in C. I can't help it. He flips too late. All right, let's take a look at Obi-Wan Kenobi. Vigilance, Heroism, Action, Exhaust, Heal 1 damage from a unit. That's pretty good in limited right away, right? You're going to be doing a lot of trading. If you can trade and have a unit live, 1 damage of health back on it might mean the difference between doing a 2-for-1 or a 3-for-1 trade. So again, if used well, this can be pretty impactful. Flips on 6, becomes a 4/7 with Sentinel. That's Sentinel is a premium, I think, in limited, so that's something to take note of. And then on attack, heal 1 damage from a unit. If you do, deal 1 damage to a different unit. So that can be your unit or your enemy's unit. Probably going to do it to your enemy unit, but it is important to note that you can do it to your unit in those fringe cases where that is going to be good. So yeah, I think honestly he's pretty solid. I think he's a good leader to play just out of the box. Healing 1 damage from a unit is just decently strong in limited. Like I said, I can see a lot of scenarios where that's going to make a difference. And because he's Vigilance, you can pair him with another aspect like Command. Look for a pool where you can bring in a lot of higher health units, because that's where the 1 health of healing is really going to be impactful. If you can be playing the 4 health, the 5 health units earlier, you know, then you're going to be able to keep those alive more. And again, create those 2-for-1 trades. Maybe try to look at playing a little bit more defensive, a little bit more mid-range with him. The interesting thing with this flip side, too, is that when he attacks, he can heal himself, too. So because he has Sentinels, something can attack into him, he can attack their base and heal himself, just kind of keep himself around longer. So I'm pretty high on Obi-Wan as far as limited goes. I think he's going to be pretty good. I think I would put him... do I put him before? I'm going to put him in A, but... I'm not sure if I'm going to put him above or behind Grievous. I kind of like him maybe a little bit better than Grievous. Yeah. So we're going to put him in A. I think he's that good. Yeah. Mace Windu. All right. Another stated control leader. Tyler Parrott did say that on social media the other day. Flips on 7. He's meant to do sort of a big board clear when he flips, right? You can see his action is pay 1 exhaust, deal 1 damage to a damaged unit. Then if it adds 5 or more damage on it, deal 1 damage to it. So just a really great leader at pinging the enemy board, finishing things off if your unit couldn't quite do the trick. And then, also setting up the enemy board over a series of turns to that when he flips on 7, wipes the board or close to it with 2 damage to each damaged enemy unit. So very interesting leader. Really cool to see a kind of a more dedicated control leader in aggression. I think that's awesome to see. I'm excited about playing Mace Windu. When I built the pre-release kit that Fantasy Flight sent me on an earlier episode, you can go back and watch that. The deck I ended up on was Mace Windu Command, because I think it had a good mix of aggressive early units and then being able to use Mace's ability to continue to control the board until that big flip turn happens. When he comes out and he's a 5/8, he's large, right? What if you get his lightsaber? Maybe that can be even better for him. So, I think he's got the potential to be strong. I think it's going to, again, but I keep saying it's going to require good trading, but honestly, like, winning any game of Star Wars Unlimited requires good unit trading, so I don't need to keep emphasizing that, I suppose. But I think he's better than Dooku, because even though they both flip on 7, and I said the weakness of a leader flipping on 7 was that you had to deal with the leaders that flipped earlier than you. But since Mace Windu has an ability that's specifically centered around controlling the opponent's side of the board, when they flip their leader, ideally you'll be in a better position to handle that than if you're playing Dooku and you're having to do things like defeat your own units to get bigger stuff out, right? You imagine a Dooku game going where you have one unit out there. Maybe it's a bigger unit because you've used the exploit ability, but it still is just one unit. So then when the leader flip turn happens, they're going to inherently have probably a better board state, right? Unless you're really able to make that one unit be huge, Whereas Mace Windu, you can use a resource every turn to just sort of ping things, keep things under control. I think he's going to be able to survive that better. I think he's still going to be a little bit tricky to use, but I am going to put him... I think I'll put him at the top of B, actually. Come on, Django, move over. Okay, there we go. I'm going to put him at the top of B. I think he's good. Well, is he better than Django good? That's a tough one. Django's exhaustibility. Nah, I think, the best form of crowd control is death, right? So I think doing damage to your opponent's board is a little bit better. So yeah, I'm going to put him at the top of B. I think he's in the conversation for A range, but I don't think he's quite there like these 3 leaders are. So yeah, I think I'm going to put him in the top of B for now. All right, moving on. Maul. All right, this is a leader that I think is going to be pretty strong and limited, honestly. He has an action, just no cost to it. Action exhaust, attack with a unit. It gains overwhelm for this attack. My daughter is screaming in the background, but she's 16 months old, so that's what they do. They just scream all the time for no reason. But anyway, back to Maul. She's thinking about playing against Maul. That's what's happening. When you attack, it gains overwhelm for the turn. So no cost to doing that. So if you're going to trade into an enemy unit where you're going to do a little bit more damage than they have health, you just do this and you just do extra damage to their base. His ability to just constantly leak damage through to the opponent's base is so strong, I think, already. And then on the flip side, he flips on 6 on 6. Hey, sounds good to me. He has overwhelm, and then each other friendly unit gains overwhelm. So suddenly, if you're able to produce a board that sticks around a little bit, sure, you're going to be doing some trading, but if you can have a board that sticks around, suddenly everything is going to be leaking damage through, and you're going to be taking out your opponent's units and doing damage to their base at the same time. I think with the right sealed pool, this is aggression villainy, by the way. I forgot to mention that earlier. With the right sealed pool, I think Maul could be extremely strong. I think this is a leader a lot of people are going to be trying to play in Limited. My one thing that I'll caution you with playing Maul is don't get too trade happy. Remember that if you're playing Maul, you're probably still going to be trying to be the beatdown. You're going to be trying to be the aggressive deck. So, even if you can give things overwhelm, there's going to be plenty of occasions where it's going to be better to just attack into their base if they don't have a sentinel. So don't get like too trade happy with Maul just because you can get the overwhelm. Make sure if you can get the full damage onto the base and then they have to attack into you, well, that's going to be more damage than attacking their unit and getting 1 damage of overwhelm in anyway, right? So just keep that in mind. But I think his ability that if you know you have to trade instead of go for face, instead of attack their base, getting that overwhelm is such a big advantage in a limited format where every point of damage is so important that I think Maul is really good. I'm gonna put him at the top of A, and I'm very tempted to put him in S, where it's just like, if you get this leader, like, play him, I am very tempted to actually just put him in S. You know what? Let's just do it. I think he's that good. I think he's good enough to put in S. All right, we'll put him in S. Our first S tier leader. Again, because like if I pull them all, unless my units for villainy and aggression are just really bad, and I don't have anything else in any other aspect unit pool wise that can shore that up, I'm playing him, right? I think in order to justify not playing Maul, you would need to have a pre-release pool that really just shouted in your face, "Don't play Maul," So, yeah, if I go by my criteria of if you pull this leader, you probably want to play him unless you have a really good reason not to. I think that means I have to put him in S. So yeah, Maul will go in S. All right, Nala Se, another leader that I'm very excited about constructed-wise, but let's talk about her in a pre-release sense. Ignore the aspect penalty on clone units you play. So that, I think, can potentially actually be very strong in a limited sense, because you're going to have a pre-release pool that's going to have stuff from all different aspects, right? You're just going to get 6 packs to work with, and a lot of the units in this set are clones. So just being able to say any clone, doesn't matter the aspect, can go in this deck, that gives you like a pretty decent pool, a pretty decent ability to be choosy about what clones you put in. So if you pull Nala Se and you get a bunch of clones, I think she might be worth playing. She flips on 4, and then every clone gains, when defeated, heal 2 damage from your base. So that there, and I've been doing a little playtesting with Nala Se actually, and what I found is that you get to play an aggressive style with her, and then when she flips, you just gain a big health advantage because you're still playing that aggressive style, but when things die, they just heal your base, right? Or your opponent has to put all of their damage into Nala Se, and she's got 7 health. So that potentially lets you get a lot of extra attacks towards their base, which effectively gives you that health gap that your units dying would have given you anyway. So I think she's a really, really strong leader. I think if you have a bunch of clones, and they're not terrible clones, but most of the clone units in this set are really good. I'm struggling to think of like a bad clone unit in this set. I don't think I can think of any genuinely bad ones. So if you got a lot of clones and you get Nala Se, I think it's going to be pretty tough to not play her. That said, there is that caveat. You need to have a lot of clone units in your pre-release pool, and sometimes you're just not going to have that. So if you pull Nala Se and you don't have a bunch of good clones, then you're probably not going to play her, right? So by virtue of that, by virtue of her having, I think, a bigger hoop to jump through to be good in a pre-release event format, I can't put her in S. I think she's going to be potentially an S tier constructed leader, but for limited, I think I would put her. At the top of B, and the reason I'm not putting her in A is because I think the A leaders, right? Cody, Obi-Wan, Grievous, those are those are just generally strong, right? It doesn't really matter what your pool is. You can put decks together for any of them. They're going to probably perform pretty well. I know Grievous requires droids through the Sentinel thing, but there's so many droids that I think it's going to be hard not to have that, right? Whereas Nala Se requires clones. There are a lot of clones, though, too. Okay, all right. If Grievous is an A, I guess we can put Nala Se in A, too, where these are just strong, with the caveat that you have to have a lot of that type of unit, right? So, okay, we can put her in A. We can put her at the bottom of A. Bottom of A. I do think it's a bit easier to find droids and clones, although I don't know the actual numbers on that. So since I don't have the actual number data on that off the top of my head, I'm gonna put her in A. We'll give her the benefit of the doubt. Because I think she is a ridiculously strong leader. And I think arguably she has a stronger flip than Grievous does. All right, moving on. Newt Gunray. Action, exhaust, vigilance, villainy, by the way. No, I'll say it was also vigilance, villainy. Newt Gunray, though, vigilance, villainy. If 2 or more friendly units were defeated this phase, create a battle droid token. All right. It's okay. It's okay. Obviously, the big thing is 2 or more friendly units. If it was 1 or more, if a friendly unit was defeated this phase, then great. Battle droid tokens all day, every day, right? 2 or more gives you a little bit of a hoop to jump through. Obviously, those units can be battle droid tokens. This is a way to use exploit and then get something back, essentially. So say you have something that you're playing that has exploit 2, you kill 2 units, and then Newt Gunray is like, oh, sweet, guess I get to make a battle droid token now. You get a little bit of something that back there. So I think he's okay in that sense, but the 2 or more is a bit of a hoop to jump through. He flips on 6. He's a 2/8, so a lot of health there. On attack, create a battle droid token. So you are making a good amount of tokens. They are 1/1s, obviously, so they're not as strong. But I'm going to tell you this now. Do not underestimate the constant pinging from battle droid tokens. If you leave the battle droid tokens alone for too long, you will regret it. They'll either get exploited for something huge, or they'll just do 3 damage over the course of 3 turns, which is a good amount of damage, right? So creating battle droid tokens is nothing to laugh at, right? I don't know if you're going to get a lot of usage off of his leader ability in a limited format because, again, you are required to have 2 units that are out and then 2 units that die. And, again, in limited, that's not something you can maybe recreate as consistently as, say, playing a constructed Newt Gunray deck where you're constantly pumping up battle droid tokens and either exploiting them or running them into your opponent's units, and so you're constantly getting that recreation of a battle droid token. So he's obviously going to be better in constructed than limited. I don't think he's bad in limited, though. I don't think he'd be the worst choice. I think I would maybe put him. I'll put him at the bottom of B. I think he's okay there. Yeah. Well, is coordinate tougher, or is having 2 units that are out that die tougher? That's the question. And it's like coordinate for +1 attack. This is 2 units die and you get another unit. I kind of like that a little bit better. I'm sorry, Ahsoka. I know people like Ahsoka a lot, and maybe I'm grossly underestimating Ahsoka, and I might be, but I just feel like it's a lot. Coordinate's a lot to ask for just +1 attack. So we're gonna put her a little bit put him a little bit above Ahsoka. Sorry, Ahsoka. Sorry, Ahsoka fans. Padme Amidala. This is a leader I'm excited about for a constructed setting. Let's talk about her in limited, though, of course. It's command, heroism, coordinate, action, pay 1, and exhaust. Search the top 3 cards of your deck for a Republic card, reveal it, and draw it. So, I mean, I'll tell you, and anyone who plays a lot of card games will tell you that card draw, specifically targeted card draw, is really strong in any card game. Being able to search and draw a card is a huge ability, right? That said, this particular one, in a limited sense, has a lot of hoops to jump through. You need coordinate. You need to use an action to do it. You need to pay a resource to do it. You need to have Republic units, many Republic units in your deck. And you need to have a good one be in the top 3 to really make it worth it, right? Otherwise, you've paid that one resource for not a lot, So as much as I've enjoyed brewing decks around her in a constructed sense, I gotta say for pre-release, I don't think she's gonna be very strong. For the same reason that Ahsoka is not super strong, in that, it's just gonna be hard to get this online. It's going to be easier when she flips, and she does flip on 5. So to be fair, she flips on 5. She's a 2/7. She has restore 1, so she helps, get you back in the game a little bit there. And then on attack, you get to search for a Republic card. You don't have to pay for it. So she gets much better when she flips, and she does flip fairly early, which is a little bit of saving grace. So, for instance, if she's the only command heroism leader you have, and you have a bunch of command heroism stuff you want to play, I think you could play Padme Amidala, and you have a bunch of Republic stuff. You could totally play her. I can absolutely see pre-release pools that you could make a good Padme deck out of. She is not unplayable by any stretch. That said, I think she's going to need a pretty specific list of cards to play. You know, Republic cards are more common, but again, the coordinate kind of side of things, you're really going to need to play a game where you're prioritizing keeping things out, right? And a lot of times you're just going to be playing whatever is best and trading in the first turns. So you're not really going to get to use her leader ability a lot before she flips anyway. She's also another leader I've been playtesting. So I've got a little bit of insight from that side of things too. And I find that you don't use her ability a whole lot before you flip her, which is fine because you're going to be playing quality stuff anyway. Again, in a constructed setting. In a limited setting, needs a very specific pool. I think I'm going to put her in C, but I'm going to put her at the top of C because I do think she is a leader that, again, if you've got enough just good cards in those aspects that make you want to play those aspects, and she's the only leader that fits into it, I think that's okay. Because, again, she flips on 5, she has Restore 1. So a 2/7 for free with Restore 1 on resource turn 5, that's still good. That's still something that can get you into the game. She does count towards Coordinate, so you only need to have 2 other units out. So, there's definitely going to be games or definitely going to be pre-release kits where playing Padme is the right move. So I do think she's easier to make work than Anakin and Dooku. So, yeah, I'll put her at the top of C. And I'm kind of tempted to put her in a B, but I just don't think she's quite there. Love the leader, but in a limited sense, in a pre-release sense, I think it's going to be a little bit tougher. In a draft sense, you could absolutely draft around Padme for sure. But in pre-release where you don't have control over that, a little bit lower. Moving on to Chancellor Palpatine and Darth Sidious. All right, that is going to be an exciting one. I'm going to move this up just a little bit. There we go. It's off the screen a little bit. Okay. So this is our double leader side leader. A really, really cool design. I am so excited to play games with this leader in a constructed setting. In pre-release, it might be a little bit trickier. Let's just read through it because he's so cool. He's Cunning Heroism on his leader side that starts face up. Action exhaust. If a friendly heroism unit was defeated this phase, draw a card, heal 2 damage from your base, then flip this leader. So on the flip side, and remember, you can't flip him multiple times per turn because you have to exhaust him to use his ability, and when you flip him, he remains exhausted. So you only get to do this once per turn. Once per action phase, I should say. But it is a strong ability. If you can get it going each action phase, it is strong. On his Darth Sidious side, he's Cunning Villainy. If you played a villainy card this phase, create a Clone Trooper token, deal 2 damage to an enemy base, then flip this leader to each enemy base, so just your opponent in this case, then flip this leader. So damage in a 2/2, and then the other side, the heroism side, is healing and a card draw. Those are both independently very strong abilities to use. So the tricky part is getting stuck with a hand that is all villainy when he's on his heroism side, or all heroism when he's on his villainy side. If you're gonna play him, and I don't think he's gonna be very easily playable in pre-release, but I do think he is playable. Here's how: you need to have a good group of low-cost heroism units, because you want to play heroism units first, obviously, because that's the side he starts on. Then you want to have a mix in your middle costs of your 3 through 5, 6, or whatever, and beyond of villainy and heroism. But early costs, your 2-drops need to be heroism, right? Because if you can get him to flip once, right? If you play your heroism unit on turn 1, it gets defeated next phase, running into something, you can flip Palpatine. Then the next turn you play a villainy card, not even a villainy unit, just a villainy card. Then you use that ability. When you use his ability, you create a heroism unit, right? A Clone Trooper token is a heroism unit. So when you begin the next action phase, when his heroism unit side is back up again, you have a heroism unit in play already, theoretically, to then get his ability to work again. You flip him. And so if you flip him once, you can, in theory, if you can keep that Clone Trooper token safe, you can get sort of a cycle going, right, where you really only need to be playing villainy units from your hand. So that is not as hard to get working as I think a lot of people expect it to be. Heroism units for the first turn, and then a good amount of villainy units after that, right? Because in theory, you're going to be creating heroism units from his villainy side, and you don't need to be playing as many from hand. So I think he is playable. I think it's very difficult both to play him correctly and to get the pool to play him. But if you have it, I think it might be really fun because that ability, like I said, each ability on each side is a strong ability independently. Healing and card draw, great. Creating a unit and dealing damage to your opponent's base that they can't do anything about, great. Great abilities on both sides, but just getting that flow going, right? Where like you flip him, you keep the clone trooper alive, you sacrifice it to flip him back to the dark side, create another token, getting that flow going is going to require some finesse and a kind of a specific card pool for pre-release. But I'm kind of like trying to talk myself out of trying to play him at my pre-release tomorrow right now because I think he's so fun. So I'm gonna put him. I'm gonna put him at the. I'm gonna put him at the bottom of C. I'm sorry. I don't think he's D tier. I think he's playable, but I think he requires a very specific pool. I think I have to put him in D, actually. I'm sorry, Palpatine. Again, I think in a constructed setting, I think he actually might be good. I think this actually might be a really good leader in a constructed setting with the right deck and the right player. But in a limited setting, I think he needs such a specific card pool that it's going to be tough to make him work, and he's going to be hard to play too. Like, going into a pre-release event without any reps on Palpatine is going to be rough, So, yeah, I love him, but I think out of all the leaders we've looked at so far, he's definitely going to be the toughest to have success with, right? Which is really kind of what we're looking at, is what are the leaders that you're going to be able to achieve success the most easily with, That's another criteria we have to add into this. So, sorry, Palpatine, you're at the bottom of the barrel for now. 4 leaders left. We've got Pre-Vizsla. So that is an aggression villainy leader, a Mandalorian trooper. Action, pay 1 resource, exhaust, deal damage to a unit equal to the number of cards you've drawn this phase. Interesting. So we have that sort of hoop to jump through. And remember, just for newer players out there, the cards you draw in your regroup phase aren't going to matter for this, right? Because it says this phase. So you have to have drawn the cards in your action phase. So you're going to need to generate card draw through other cards, right? It doesn't have anything to do with the cards you draw just in your regroup phase. So, looking at the set, off the top of my head, I can't exactly remember, honestly, how many card draw cards I've seen. There must be a decent amount for him to exist. That said, I think he's a leader that's going to require some stuff from previous sets to really kind of come online. Let's look at his flip side, though. He does flip on 5. He is a 4/6 on 5. Pretty good. 4 power for a 5 flip is great. 6 health is fine. While you have 3 or more cards in your hand, this unit gains Saboteur, so he kind of incentivizes you to have cards in hand. And while you have 6 or more cards in hand, this unit gets +2/+0. So you can potentially get a 6/6 for on your 5 drop. That requires you to have a lot of cards in your hand. So this is a leader that, honestly, I really haven't put too much thought into yet. There's decks that I'm sure you could build around him, but are you ever going to have 6 cards in your hand in a pre-release event? I really doubt it, unless things have kind of gone horribly wrong, right? Having 3 cards in your hand is totally possible. 6 or more is unlikely, so you really have to plan on him being a 4/6 with Saboteur, which is strong on a 5 drop. And if you do find some cards that let you draw cards during the action phase, you can get a little bit of unit control in there, but I think for the most part, you're going to be kind of on your own. You're going to be sort of playing with the units you've got. You're not going to be able to use his leader ability that much. He is a very strong leader when flipped, though, which is a legitimate thing to consider in limited. I just don't think he's going to be played very much, though. You really need specific cards to make his leader ability do anything. He might as well be blank for a lot of pre-release kits out there, I think. And when he flips, is he going to be good enough to kind of bring things back again? You could play an aggressive deck with him, just if you have a lot of great aggressive units that fit into aggression, villainy, and then whatever other aspect you pair with it with your base. If you get a really good aggressive package and you want to run Pre-Vizsla as like a finisher, just this strong saboteur that comes out on flip turn on resource turn 5, I think that's fine. So I don't think he's terrible. I don't think he's really that hard to make decent, but again, you're kind of having to accept that you're going to have a blank leader ability for most games, I would say. So this is a leader that you're really not going to play unless you really don't have any other options, or you've got that really good aggressive kit. So I feel like we have to put him in D, but I would maybe... I'm going to put him near the top of C, actually. I said D, but I'll put him near the top of C. I meant to say C. Because I think he's better than Anakin, because Anakin does damage to your base. And I think he's a little bit better than Dooku, because, again, the exploit and flipping so late, I think is going to make him really difficult to have success with in a limited sense. So, yeah, I'll put him near the top of C. I'm putting him below Padme, because I think Padme just, in general, has a stronger pool of cards that will just benefit you, right? Republic stuff. There's a lot of good synergy between Republic units out there. Her restore on her flip is good. Drawing an extra card is good. I do think Padme's a little bit better, but yeah, I mean, I would say Pre-Vizsla is another one of those leaders that you're just not going to play unless you have no other option. Move on. 3 left. We're going to take a look at Quinlan Voss. Cunning Heroism. When you play a unit, you may exhaust this leader. If you do, deal 1 damage to an enemy unit that costs the same as the played unit. This guy might be kind of sleeper good, actually, because, and a lot of people I think have been kind of writing him off from what I've been reading in the forums and things like that. By the way, join the Ice Cave Radio Discord. But in a limited sense, where a lot of people are going to just be playing their unit every turn, and you can just play a unit that they played, especially if you're going second, because they play a unit, then you play your unit, then your unit costs the same as their unit, so that you get to do damage to their unit. So if all goes well in an ideal world, their units are always going to come in, or they're going to have 1 unit per turn come in that's 1 health lower than your unit. So he's interesting. He flips on 5. He's a 3/7. When you play a unit, you may deal 1 damage to an enemy unit that costs the same as or less than the played unit. So he just kind of gets his ability more than once per turn potentially, because you don't need to exhaust him anymore. I think it's important to keep in mind too that he is Force, Jedi, and Republic for traits. So those are all traits where if you have a pool of cards that benefit from that, especially the Force and Jedi side, I think he might be worth playing. If you get a lot of Force and Jedi stuff, lightsabers, he can be pretty strong because he flips on 5, throw a lightsaber on him. You're going to be pretty scary. There's not like a ton of upgrade removal. There's not even a ton of like hard removal in the set. So units with upgrades might be pretty good. And again, limited, a lot of times they're gonna play their card that costs however many resources they have. You're gonna play your card that costs however many resources they have. So I think you're gonna be able to get his ability off pretty consistently. Not a leader I've put a ton of thought into yet, honestly, but when I do think about it, I'm like, he might be decent. I'm actually gonna put him, yeah, because I think you're going to get to use his ability pretty consistently. So I think I'm actually going to put him in B. Yeah, I think I'm going to put him in B. I'm going to put him ahead of Grievous and Nalase, because, again, I think Nalase and Grievous are very strong with specific unit types. I think Quinlan Voss is just strong in general, right? If you have a good resource curve, which you should. Otherwise, you're probably going to lose your games. So I think if you build a deck with a good resource curve, if you have the cunning heroism and whatever other aspect you choose, I think he could be good. So, yeah, I'm actually going to put him in A. I think Quinlan Voss might not be bad. I could see him being pretty solid. And he's common, so you're going to see him pretty consistently. So I think that's another point in his favor, too, is that he's a common leader. You're going to see him pretty often, and he has an ability that's very consistently usable. All right, yeah. I didn't expect to place him as high as I did, actually. But on thinking about it a little bit more, I think he's an A tier leader there. Yeah. Man, he might even be S. Right? Because you'll get to use this so consistently. The only reason I'm not going to put him in S is I just don't know if the 1 damage is going to be a big enough difference maker each game. Whereas I feel like Maul, the Overwhelm, is always going to make a difference. So, Wat Tambor, command villainy, action, exhaust. If a friendly unit was defeated this phase, give a unit +2/+2 for the phase. I think that's pretty strong. I think there's a decent amount of time where you're going to have 2 units in play, and just being able to, have that threat out there, right? Because it's not even necessarily that you're using his ability. It's the extra mental hoop that your opponent has to jump through, thinking, hey, if I kill this unit of theirs, then their other unit is going to suddenly be +2/+2. What does that mean for my game? And a lot of opponents are just going to straight up miss that. A lot of players are going to have a hard time sort of like parsing out what if that means you should attack, go to base, if you attack the other unit instead. Like, I think Wat Tambor presents, especially because his action doesn't cost anything, I think Wat Tambor presents a little interesting mental puzzle for your opponent, which is great in a pre-release setting because everybody's learning the new cards. So the more burden mentally you can put on your opponent from your cards, the better, right? That gives you a better chance to win. So I think Wat Tambor is pretty solid, actually. Again, not even because you're using his ability, just the threat of his ability, the way it makes your opponent have to think about playing the game differently and presents more opportunities for your opponent to make mistakes, I think makes him a fairly strong leader. Let's look at his flip side, though. He flips on 5. A lot of leaders flipping on 5 this set, if you notice, too. So it's going to come a little bit earlier than previous sets. 3/6. On attack, if a friendly unit was defeated this phase, you may give another unit +2/+2 for this phase. So same thing, but just on attack instead of on exhaust. Same effect, too, right? Your opponent's going to have to just think about that when they're trading into you, So it's also something, too, where, of course, you can trade one of your units into one of their units and take it out, and then you have that ability online as well. So you can choose to kind of, like, turn that online. I like Wat Tambor. I think if you've got a lot of good command villainy stuff, he's very playable. If we look across the rest of our leaders here, and we look across villainy command, they're really, the only other one is Dooku. So if you have Dooku and Wat Tambor out, and you're choosing between a command villainy leader to use, I think you're going to pick Wat Tambor every single time. I think it's pretty good. I think, I'm going to put him in A. I'm going to put him in A, the thing is, though, we've got enough units in A at this point that these are just generically good leaders that I think where these 2 leaders kind of stand out as you need kind of specific unit trait pools, I think it's time. We got to move Grievous and Alcay down to B. Yep. I think, because I think, at some point you have to have a bit of a curve, right? So these 4 leaders, I think, have jumped ahead in quality to the extent that these 2 leaders, while good, while definitely strong, still have that little requirement, right? Where it's like you need to have a lot of droids, you need to have a lot of clones, and if you don't, they're not really playable. Whereas these are very generically playable no matter what traits you kind of find it in your deck. So yeah, I'm gonna put that there. Yeah. Wat Tambor, he would be S, but you need to have 2 units out for it to, really be a thing. Although the thing is you can still play a unit after one of your units was defeated, and then give that unit +2/+2, right? Think about a scenario where you have a unit out, it's defeated. You play another unit, and then with your next action, you can give it +2/+2, right? The friendly unit, the second friendly unit, doesn't need to have been on the board when the first unit died, right? Because it just was defeated this phase. So that's an anytime kind of thing. That's another little kind of tech thing to think about with Wat Tambor, right? From the little tech from the Techno Union. One more leader to go. I think Wat Tambor is good. It's Yoda. Yoda. Action, exhaust. If a unit left play this phase, draw a card, then put a card from your hand on the top or bottom of your deck. Cycling has come to Star Wars Unlimited. One of the strongest abilities in TCGs is here on Yoda. Just getting to cycle a card, right? Draw a card and then discard a card. And it's not even discard. It's put on the bottom of your deck. I would have actually preferred it to be discard instead of put on the bottom of your deck, because there's more and more cards in the game that let you mess with your discard pile. But that might make Yoda a little bit too strong, I gotta say. So the thing is, putting it on the top or bottom is ultra strong, right? You can stack your deck for things like, You're My Only Hope, right, from set 1. So constructed, I think Yoda's going to be a really, really fun control leader to build around. He flips on 7, right? In limited, I think cycle is good. I think being able to put the thing back on the top of your deck is good. A unit has to leave play, of course, but in general, I think he's strong. I just don't think the only problem with Yoda, well, the two problems with Yoda is that he flips on 7, right? Which again, we've seen that a lot of leaders, I would say maybe even most leaders in this set, flip on 5. You're going to have a way from hand to deal with their leader, which is a big ask in a pre-release setting. So I think that gives him that's a strike against Yoda, even though he has Restore 2, even though he's a 4/9 when he comes out. Let's read his when deployed too. When deployed, you may discard a card from your deck. If you do, defeat an enemy non-leader unit that costs the same or less as that discarded card, which is ridiculous, right? Because you can use his ability, then you can flip him. So, again, you have to have the card in your hand to make it work. But if you can kind of kill anything, providing you've got the right cost card at the time. That's strong. But again, I think that's more strong in constructed than it is in pre-release. So I don't think Yoda is as good. Cycling is very strong. Cycling is in draw 1, discard 1. Or draw 1 in this case, put 1 on the top or bottom of your deck. That is a strong ability. And it lets you fix a lot of bad draws, especially because Yoda doesn't cost anything to use his ability. If it was cost 1, it'd be much worse, but it doesn't cost anything. So you have a brick hand, you use Yoda, you draw into something usable, you can play something that turn. So I think by virtue of that, in a pre-release setting, that's very strong, because a lot of times, again, we're dealing with inconsistent decks in a pre-release environment. So being able to tailor your hand turn to turn a little bit more is really good. But he flips so late. When he does flip, though, he's very strong. I think I'm going to put him at the bottom of A. I'm going to put him at the bottom of A because I don't think he's as overwhelmingly good as the rest of these leaders. And I'm actually going to rearrange A a little bit. I'm actually going to put, whoops, that's not the one. Oopsie. I'm going to rearrange, there we go, let's go to the proper window. Rearrange A a little bit. I'm going to put Wat Tambor actually to the top of A. I think he is that good. And I'm going to move Quinlan Voss above Obi-Wan because I think doing a damage is a little bit stronger than healing a damage in general. Because a lot of trades are just 1-for-1, Yeah, I think that's a good arrangement for A. Again, I think Maul is the only S tier leader at the end of it. Let's review a little bit. So Maul, we have our Maul S tier leader. I think he's super strong. Overwhelm is great. Wat Tambor, again, the mental puzzle throws at your opponent, I think is strong. Cody is just solid overall, creating a ton of stats when he flips the 2/3 token. And he, having a lot of health as well is big. And then, you've got damage and healing. You've got card manipulation. I might like that a little bit better than the healing, actually. In fact, I like that better than this even. Yeah, I'm going to move Yoda up to 3rd in A. Yeah, but the late flip. I'm going to move him here. Okay. I think Quinlan Voss is still objectively a little bit strong. We're nitpicking now. They're effectively the same strength. So looking down here, I think there's Grievous and Nalase. I think you've got a little bit of a gap after that. And then you've got these conditional abilities. I think, again, Asajj Ventress is the most difficult to use all of them. But the fact that she flips on 4, and if you get the right pool to play aggressive decks, can be strong. That said, since it's so pool dependent, I think I'm going to move her to the bottom of B. And yeah, Ahsoka, is coordinate easier than getting Nute Gunray's ability to work? Probably. I'm going to move Ahsoka up a little bit. Let's go to C. I'm happy with where C's at. And D, again, I love Palpatine. I absolutely love Palpatine, but I think he's going to be just really difficult to make a deck work in pre-release with him. So there you have it. There is our Twilight of the Republic pre-release leader tier list. Maul on top on his own. The A tier leaders in pre-release, the ones that if you pull them, like Maul, if you pull it, you're gonna have to have a very good reason not to play him. Your pool's gonna have to be terrible for aggression villainy not play him. Meanwhile, in A, we've got Wat Tambor, Captain Rex, Quinlan Voss, Yoda, and Obi-Wan, all just solid across the board leaders where you can get a good variety in card pool in your pre-release kits and still make them work. They aren't very trait agnostic or trait dependent, I should say. Trait dependent. They are trait agnostic. There's just a lot of aspects you can pair with them. Just generally good leaders. Good ones to really consider. Then you've got your leaders that could be strong, but then kind of have more of a requirement from your packs to be really playable. I think, again, Grievous and Nala Se are a little bit of an exception to that, where I think it's going to be much easier to put together decks for them than the other 5 here. Then C, these are leaders where it's like, they're playable, they're not terrible, but you're really going to, have to have not really gotten any of these to want to play one of these, or you really, really want to play it, Not going to be the greatest. And then Palpatine just requires the most specific type of deck, the most specific type of play, of player knowledge. There's too many burdens there to really kind of like be consistent, I think, just out of the box with him. I think it's entirely possible Palpatine will win a pre-release event, but I think it's going to require a really good player and a really specific set of cards in your booster packs. So there you go. There you have it. There's our Twilight of the Republic pre-release leader tier list. Let me know in the comments what you think. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Would you move anything around? I'm sure that I've done it perfectly, and there's nothing anyone could possibly argue with. But just in case there is, definitely like and comment and let me know. And also subscribe to the channel, please, if you haven't already. Thanks for sitting through all of this. I think it's been a really, really fun breakdown of the leaders coming in Twilight of the Republic. Go forth, win your pre-releases, but more importantly, have a great time. There's so much cool stuff in this set. I can't wait to do this, to then get into deck building. It is going to be awesome. Watch this channel for booster box openings. We're going to be doing some of those this weekend, and lots of more stuff to get excited about. So go to icecaveradio.com, join our Discord. Our Discord is amazing. Go get a shirt. We got merch and stuff. Otherwise, follow all of our social channels and everything to keep in touch with us. Charmer is going to be back really, really soon. Don't worry about it. But until then, we'll see you next time. Go play some Star Wars Unlimited. Be good to each other. See you next time.